Hi everybody, Stacy Tyler here with Bubble Baby Custom Fabrics, and today is day one of our sew along for the Be Creative Hoodie pattern by Ellie and Mac Pattern Company. If you haven't purchased your pattern yet, please do so. The link is in the description. Okay, so for the supplies needed for this pattern, you will need a rotary cutter and mat, or you could use scissors. You will need 50% four-way stretch fabric. Bubble Baby Custom Fabrics does have some awesome options. You should definitely check out the website. You will also need coordinating thread to match the fabric, clips or pins. You could use a sewing machine or serger for this. If using a sewing machine, please make sure that you have a ballpoint needle and you're using your zigzag stitch. Cover stitch machine is optional. You will need an ironing board, and as well as printer, paper, and tape or glue sticks so that you could print your pattern and assemble the pattern. And if you're doing the grommets, then you will need 2 grommets. I'm using 3 8-inch grommets, and you will need something to assemble the grommet with. You could use grommet pliers or the setting tool. In this tutorial, I'll be using the grommet pliers. Okay, so for today, we are going to be printing and assembling our pattern. So you want to make sure that you are cutting from the required cut list. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a top front bodice piece, a top back bodice piece. You're going to need 2 of the bottom bodice pieces, 1 for the front and 1 for the back. If you're doing the short sleeve option, you'll want to make sure that you cut 2 of the sleeve bands. If you decided for the long sleeve option, then you will go with the 2 sleeve cuffs. If you decided to do the hood, then you'll need 2 of the outer hood pieces and 2 of the hood liner pieces. If you decided to go with a cowl, then you'll need to cut 2 of the outer cowl option and then 2 of the inner cowl. Also the optional piping, if you wanted the piping in the front between the front bodice and the bottom bodice, and then the optional patches that go on before you before you assemble the grommets. So when cutting, just make sure you are grading the correct size, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to comment here, and I will be happy to help you. Okay, see you tomorrow. Hi everybody, welcome to day 2 of our Be Creative Sew Along. Today we're going to be assembling the front and the back bodice pieces. So if you're going to be using the piping, what we need to do first is go ahead and fold our piping in half and then just iron that. Make sure my iron is hot here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and pressed my piping. And I'm just clipping it together before I clip it to my front bodice piece. Okay. So for my hoodie, I'm going to be using this awesome fabric from Bubble Baby Custom Fabrics. It's only available for pre-order for a short time. So I have a Mario panel here, and then I'm using this awesome triangle coordinate. Here's a little bit bigger piece. And then I have this for my back bodice that I'll be using. So I wanted to put the piping in. I liked that option. I think it's going to look really cool. So I'm just using actually the bottom of another panel I had that was too long anyway. The panel was solid red, so I was like, hey, no wasting fabric for me. I love to try to save and reuse everything. Okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and attach this on there. Okay, so I have my piping. Now I want to go ahead and put my front bodice on there. So how I do this is I just fold it in half. When you are clipping your piping, you don't want to stretch your piping at all. So I wanted to fold that in half and find the middle. And then I'll do the same for this. It looks like I have my middle perfectly. So the purple is going to be my middle here. And I'm just going to put these down right sides together. Here we go. And then I'm going to get my end here. You also don't want to stretch this piece. Okay. I'm just going to clip this all together so I only have to sew one time. I'm not stretching anything to fit. Nothing should have to be stretched for this. It should all fit nicely together. So I did a 5 width and a 7 length for mine based on my son's measurements. Okay, make sure there's not any stretching, nowhere that has too much fabric. Let's see, I think this could go over a little bit. Okay. Okay. So everything looks pretty good now. So I'm going to go ahead and just sew along here using my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to do that and I will be back. Actually, you know what? I'll prep this back piece too. So it's going to be the same thing. Just make sure you're grabbing your back bodice piece. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together. So I'm marking my center here. And I want to mark my center on this one as well. So just fold it in half. Match everything up. Okay. So I am using a serger, but if you're not using a serger, then make sure you're using a ballpoint needle with a zigzag stitch. The zigzag is going to allow your material to stretch. If you use a straight stitch, when your fabric stretches, it's going to rip your stitch. So we don't want that happening. We want your fabric to stay together. Okay. Oops. I really like Ellie and Mac patterns because the tutorials are detailed and there's lots of pictures. They also have a Facebook group. So if you are lost on a pattern, you don't get a certain step, then you could join the group and ask away in there. There's a lot of members that have probably made the pattern you're looking for, or you're actually sewing. And then the owner of the company is on Facebook as well, so she could always help you. She's the one that designed the pattern, so she's available too. So make sure you join their group if you haven't done so already. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stitch these. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I will be back. So once you sew your bodice, you just want to press everything down. Pressing is just going to make sure everything's smooth. And actually, if you're using a zigzag stitch, sometimes your material could bunch up a little bit. Just a little bit, and then once you iron it, it kind of smooths everything flat. So this is I used a serger. So you could top stitch if you wanted, but I'm actually not going to. I usually do, but this time I'm not. Okay, so I'm gonna iron this flat. This is my back bodice here. Okay, so the next step is going to be sewing the shoulders, or basically the back and front bodices together. So I'm just going to lay them on top of each other, right sides together, and match up my front and back bodices right here. And you could pin or clip if desired. I'm just going to do this for the sake of the tutorial. Normally I don't use pins or clips, but I used tons when I first started. Okay. I love these clips because I stopped poking my fingers all the time using pins. Okay. So just remember we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so we're just going to go ahead and stitch right here on both sides of these. So we'll do that, and that's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to go ahead and attach the sleeves. Hi everybody. So today we're going to be working on attaching our sleeves and sewing our side seams. I'm trying to find, here's my sleeves. Okay. So here is my front and my back, and these are the sleeves I'm going to be using. So what I like to do is just mark the center of my sleeves. Let me refold this one. Okay, there we go. Alright, and then I will just pin the center of my sleeve to the seam that attaches my front and back bodices together. And then, let's flip this toward me. Then I like to pin or clip the edges of the sleeve as well. So I'll do that. Okay. And then I just like to follow it along. You don't need to be stretching your sleeve. If you stretch it, it's gonna gather the material and it's gonna look funny. So make sure you're not stretching. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew along the arm sickle here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Can you see that? So I'm gonna sew from edge to edge. When you're sewing, make sure you use your zigzag stitch if you're using a regular machine, and then also make sure none of the fabric's getting caught under. You only want to be sewing the two edges here. So there's one sleeve attached, and now I'm going to be attaching the other one. So I have it marked. Okay, I'm just going to pin those right sides together and just do the same thing here. So When you're using the clips, you want to put this flat side, I don't know if it's coming into focus or not, but basically there's a flat side and a curvy side. You want to put the flat side down where it's going to be touching your sewing machine. That way it glides over. I always remove the clips right before it gets to the sewing machine, but that way it's just like smooth. If you do it this way, it's just gonna be a little bit harder. Okay, I'm gonna sew this one 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so when you're done, your piece is gonna look like this. What you wanna do is just fold the right sides together. And just align everything. Okay, make sure it's all aligned. Okay. And then you're just gonna sew from the arm, let's see, arm all the way down on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and do that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I will be back. Okay, so here is all my side seams are sewn. So I will see you tomorrow, where we will be attaching our either our armbands or our sleeve cuffs, and then we'll be attaching the waistband. So I'm just going to turn this inside out. And this is what we have so far. I'm loving it. Very cute. Okay. Well, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hi everybody. Today we're going to be attaching the sleeve cuffs and the waistband. So I have my sleeve cuffs here. What you want to do is just fold them in half, right sides together, and sew down the sides using 3/8 inch, I'm sorry, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the same with your waistband. So I'm going to do that real quick and I will be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and sewn those, and I'm just turning them inside out right now. So your sleeve cuffs, if you're doing cuffs, are just going to be folded wrong sides together like this, making sure everything's aligned. And then your waistband as well. So for the waistband, I do use clips usually. Okay. Get this all clipped up. Okay. Now you gotta decide where you want your seam to go. Some people like the seam to go straight in the back. Some people like to blend it in with the side. I'm gonna go ahead and blend mine in with the side. First though, I will get my 2 even sides by folding it in half and adjusting the clip. So this will go on this side and this one will go on this side. So you want to make sure your raw part actually is aligned with the raw part here, and you're just going to put the shirt inside the waistband. I'm going to align my edges here and clip, and align this part and clip. And what I like to do here is just stretch everything out and then move my fingers along to find the center points. You could also clip the center points beforehand if you want. And then I'll re-stretch this. There we go. And stretch this, walk my fingers to the middle. And clip there. Flip it around and do the same thing with the back. Okay, stretch and then walk the fingers along. Here's my middle. Stretch, walk the fingers along. Here we go. Okay. Now when you're sewing the band on, you want to stretch the band as you sew, but not the shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to use my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I will be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done the band. So now I want to, I'm using a serger, so I just have to tie off my... So we've attached the waistband. I went ahead and attached one of the sleeves already because my camera died. But this is how you're going to want to do it. After you fold it in half, you're going to get to the part where the seam is and match it up with the seam on your arm. And just put the arm through the middle there. Okay, and we're going to match these up. You're going to be stretching the sleeve cuff to fit, and then we're going to be sewing that. Feel free to pin 1/4 inch. We'll sew that together. So I'll do that and I'll be back. I'm back. So I've attached my cuff, and since I'm using a serger, I just need to tie off my end. That's how I like to do mine. There's other ways to do it. You could weave it in. Some people use liquid stitch, like glue it. But I like to tie mine off. So I'll tie it. Okay. So here we are. We're getting there. Okay, well I will see everybody tomorrow where we will attach our hood or cowl, whatever option you chose. I'm very excited. Hey everybody, welcome to day 4 of the Be Creative Hoodie Sew Along. So now we're going to go ahead and prepare our hood or cowl pieces. You want to transfer the markings of where you're going to apply your grommets if you're doing so. So I use this water-soluble pen to go ahead and do that, and a seam ripper. So without showing the full pattern piece, I just used the seam ripper to poke the holes, and then I laid the pattern on top of my fabric, and then I poked through the holes with my water-soluble pen. And then I got my ruler and just made sure everything was straight. So pay attention when you're transferring your markings, because there's actually going to be 2 placements. One goes on the right side and one goes on the left side. As you can see, I did it incorrectly on this one, so I had to go ahead and redo it. So this one's I use the disappearing side of my pen, so that'll go away in just a couple hours. But one's going to be closer to the bottom and one's going to be closer to the middle. If you're doing patches, then you're going to want to cut your patches and then sew those on. My regular sewing machine is broken right now, so I got an iron-on stabilizer. Normally you'd want to put the stabilizer behind this piece. But what I'm going to be doing is sandwiching it in between the 2 pieces, and it's going to keep my fabric together. Okay, and it's supposed to adhese it. So I'm using a Pellin 82, and there we go. So I'm putting that in between, and I'll just iron that down, and I will let you know, or I will come back when that is done. So like I said, I am improvising here by using the Pellin 82 to sandwich in between the fabrics instead of sewing here, because my sewing machine is broken right now, my regular one. So normally you would sew this on and then apply your stabilizer back here and then attach the grommet. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be using grommet pliers. So what I want to do first is get my hole punching piece, which is going to be the piece that has a hole in it, and push that. That's the side. It has a hole in it so that the fabric could go down. It's kind of like a hole puncher. And then I want to get my smaller, there's going to be 2 of these. I want to get the smaller one and put it in the other side. So first I need to decide where I want my hole to be. So I'm just going to get it in the center of this patch here. Okay. So that looks like it's in the center, and I'm going to squeeze until I hear it click. I didn't hear it click that time, but it did make the hole for me. Okay, and I'm just going to do that to the other one. I'm going to try to get it in the center as much as possible. There we are. There's the click. Okay. There we go. And here's where straight pins come in handy, because you do need to get the fabric out of here. See, it's already starting to build up from the other projects I've done. Okay, that's all my fabric. Okay, and then I'll just toss those. And now we need to change to our grommet applicator pieces. So you'll take this handy dandy tool, and see this hook part? You're going to hook that on to this part right here. So I'm just going to hook it, and then this part is going to push the piece out. There we go. Push that out. And do the same thing with the other side. Okay, pushed it out. Now I'm going to apply my big diamond, I'm not sure what it's called, the diamond looking thing, I guess, and my pink piece. And here's the grommets I'm using. So this is 3/8 inch. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open that. When you're applying, let's see, there we go. When you're applying your grommets, there we go. You want to put the piece that has, I guess, the lip on the outside, and then the thin piece on the inside, so that when you smash it together, it's not showing. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So I'm going to squeeze my piece that has the lip on it through the hole, just like that. And then I'm going to get my thin piece and just place it over the hole. My pink part of my pliers, I want to be touching the front of the fabric. And then I'm just going to push it in here. Make sure none of my fabric's caught sandwiched in between, and then just give it a squeeze. And then there you go. There's our grommet. So I will do that again to the other one. Okay, so we're gonna get our piece that has the lip here, the thicker piece, I guess you could call it, and we're gonna put it through the front in that hole we just made. We're gonna flip it over, put our thin piece over like that. Make sure our flat side of our pliers is down. We're gonna check to make sure no fabric sandwich in between. Nope. And then we're gonna give it a squeeze. And there we go. There's our second one. So we're done with our pliers. I like to just get the pieces out so that they're ready for the next time. Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna put our hoods right sides together. And we're going to sew along this curved edge a 1/4 inch. We're gonna do that to both hoodie pieces. So this is gonna be our outer hoodie and this is gonna be our inner hoodie. And then I will be back. I've gone ahead and sewed my 2 hood pieces. So I'm just gonna flip one inside out and the other one I'm going to put over this so they're right sides together. Match up everything. Okay. There we are. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew along here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I will do that and I will be back. Okay. So I've gone ahead and sewed around. So I'm just going to turn it inside out. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is just press this seam and I'm going to top stitch. So I'm going to press the seam here and then I'm going to top stitch, because if you don't top stitch, I mean it's fine, but the material might move a lot and you might see this part coming out of the hood or something like this. So top stitching just keeps everything in place. It's a good idea to iron beforehand so you get a nice smooth area to top stitch. So I'm gonna do that and I'll be back and we'll go ahead and attach the hood. Okay, hey everybody, so I've gone ahead and finished my hood. I did the top stitching so it looks all nice. Now I want to overlap. So what I'm gonna do, so the overlap size depends on what size hood you're doing. My hood is a 5 in width, so I need to overlap 5 inches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mark my 5 inches with a clip. And I'll flip this over. So this is gonna be my side with the higher grommet, and this is my side with the lower grommet. Okay, so I want my clip to meet the edge of this here. Okay, so just like that. And then I'll clip this one here. Okay, so when we sew our hood, it's going to look like this. You can't tell. There we go, like that. Okay, so we're gonna take our shirt here and we're going to insert the hood right sides together. But what I like to do is find my center points. So we know this is our back center because of the seam. Okay. And we're going to turn our shirt inside out. And we're going to put the hoodie in. Make sure that the front of the hoodie is in the front bodice and the back of the hoodie is matching up with the back bodice. You don't want to sew the hood on backwards. Okay. And where is my middle? There's my middle front. Alright, so now I'm just going to sew my hood on like this, and then we're going to be done. Alright, I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay. So I've gone ahead and sewn my hoodie on. I'm just going to go ahead and flip this inside out. Or right side out, I guess I should say. There it is. Okay, let me snip this. There we go. I'll snip one more. Oh, just go right up. Okay. So here is our finished hoodie, you guys. Thanks everybody for joining in on the Be Creative Hoodie Sew Along. I can't wait to see what everybody has put together. I really love this one and I know my son will too. I can't wait for him to see it. Okay, bye bye.